All right, welcome back. Today, our explainer is tackling the absolute biggest question surrounding these ancient gestures. Why do people actually believe mudras work? To figure that out, we're going to look through two very distinct, incredibly fascinating lenses. We're talking ancient philosophy and modern science. Think of it as a journey, right? We're traveling from how our ancestors understood the human spirit all the way to what we can physically, tangibly measure in a lab today.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 1. Two ways of understanding, 2. The yogic subtle body, 3. The scientific perspective, 4. The psychology of feeling better, and finally, 5. Fact versus fiction.
Let's jump straight into Section 1, Two Ways of Understanding.
It is genuinely fascinating to see how these two worldviews operate side by side. The ancient yogic tradition relies heavily on deeply symbolic concepts, things like Prana, Nadis, Chakras, and the 5 elements. Meanwhile, modern science speaks a totally different language, right? It's all about anatomy, neuroscience, cellular structures, and biochemistry. The trick here is that neither system should be automatically confused with the other. Our goal today isn't to tell you what to believe. We just want to impartially translate what each framework actually says, so you can thoughtfully apply this knowledge to your own life and well-being.
Moving right along to Section 2, the yogic subtle body.
So a really foundational concept here is something called the Pancha Mahabhutas, or the 5 elements. In traditional Indian philosophy, absolutely everything in the entire cosmos is forged from these basic building blocks. You have earth for stability, water for fluidity, fire for transformation, air for movement, and space for expansion. And yoga teaches that these exact same elements exist right there inside of you, not as literal biological tissues, of course, but as a symbolic map of your inner energy and your state of mind.
And here's where it connects directly to our hands. Yogic tradition maps these 5 elements right onto your fingers. The thumb represents fire, the index finger is air, the middle finger is space, the ring finger is earth, and the little finger is water. Forming a mudra is believed to harmonize these forces. Now look, a modern biologist obviously isn't going to examine your thumb and say, "Ah, yes, pure fire." But as a psychological model for finding inner balance, this ancient mapping is incredibly intricate, and it gives you a really unique way to visualize and manage your own stress and focus.
Okay, another massive pillar of this ancient framework is prana. You'll often hear it translated as vital energy. In traditional yoga, prana isn't just the physical chemical oxygen that we breathe in and out. It's seen as this invisible life force that actively sustains your vitality and mental clarity. Mudras are essentially believed to be the switches that direct this flow. Now, from a strict scientific standpoint, we can't exactly hook up a prana meter in a lab to measure it, but honestly, that doesn't invalidate its profound importance as a very real, lived experience for the millions of people who use it to cultivate calmness every single day.
But that begs the question, right? If these ancient texts are claiming this vital energy is flowing all throughout us, where exactly is it going? What are the pathways? Well, traditional yoga answers this with nadis. These are described as thousands of subtle energy channels. 3 of them are considered absolute paramount. Ida for introspection and calmness, Pingala for activity and vitality, and Sushumna for spiritual awakening. Again, if a surgeon operates, they're going to find veins and nerves. They aren't going to find physical tubes called nadis. But even though they don't show up on a medical MRI, they serve as this incredibly profound conceptual map for navigating your meditative journey and finding that internal equilibrium.
And right where those subtle channels intersect, that's where we find the chakras. The word literally translates to wheels. These are mapped vertically along your spine, and each one holds very specific symbolic qualities. You have the root chakra for stability, the heart for compassion, the throat for communication, and the crown for higher awareness. A lot of mudras are designed specifically to focus your attention on these areas. And while, sure, we lack physical biological organs that correspond directly to chakras, modern psychologists actually note that visualizing these centers is a highly effective, practical tool for regulating your own emotions.
Okay, which brings us to the absolute biggest question of this entire explainer. When we step away from the ancient symbolism and look through our second lens, hard, empirical science, do mudras actually work?
Let's explore exactly that in Section 3, the scientific perspective.
All right, here is the scientific reality. Plain and simple, we have to separate the overall context of the practice from the actual finger positions themselves. On one hand, we have overwhelmingly strong evidence. Decades of rigorous clinical research unequivocally prove that the meditation and controlled breathing that accompany mudras absolutely reduce stress, lower your heart rate, and improve daily focus. However, when researchers isolate just the finger posture itself to see if it independently cures diseases, the credible evidence for that is incredibly limited. But guys, this creates a really fascinating paradox, doesn't it? If the hard clinical science on just the finger placement is limited, why do millions of practitioners genuinely experience such profound positive effects? Which brings us to Section 4, the psychology of feeling better.
The answer actually lies right at the intersection where ancient ritual meets modern neuroscience. Let's break it down into steps. Step 1. Mudras are almost always paired with meditation, which, as we know, objectively lowers physiological stress. Step 2. Simply holding a precise intentional posture requires focused attention, which acts like an anchor for a racing mind. Step 3 is expectation. If you genuinely believe a ritual is going to calm you down, your brain actively releases calming neurochemicals. That is a measurable reality. And finally, Step 4. Daily repetition builds healthy neural habits. The healing benefits are very real, it's just that the mechanism is psychological rather than magical.
Let's clarify some boundaries in Section 5, fact versus fiction.
We have to be crystal clear here, because this is exactly where taking symbolic philosophy as literal medical advice becomes genuinely dangerous. If you look online, you'll see massive myths, claims that holding your fingers a certain way can cure diabetes, or that you can replace your medication with a mudra. The scientific reality is that those claims are completely unsupported. Complex biochemical conditions require evidence-based medicine. Mudras are an absolutely wonderful, powerful supplement for your daily stress management, but they should literally never replace a doctor's care.
I absolutely love this quote because it perfectly summarizes our entire journey today. Having a deeply profound, relaxing experience during a mudra meditation is entirely valid. It is 100% real to the person experiencing it. But personal experience alone is fundamentally different from scientific proof, which requires controlled consistency. And you know what? That's okay. Appreciating both allows us to deeply respect the ancient tradition without ever compromising our critical thinking.
So as we wrap up part 3 of this explainer, I want to leave you with this. Are mudras simply a biological switch that science hasn't fully decoded yet? Or are they quite possibly the most elegantly designed psychological anchor the ancient world ever produced? Think about that for a second. Appreciating both the beautiful traditional symbolism and the rigorous empirical science gives us the most complete picture of these ancient gestures. From all of us here at Life Tales, remember to learn, think, and grow. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more evidence-based documentaries. We'll see you in part 4.